Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar. I'm going to start you off with a question. When you donate to a charity live stream and that money leaves your bank account and it goes to the charity, do you expect that money to actually be going to the charity that you're donating to, or do you expect it to sit in a bank account for years? What do you think is the more logical option? Do you want your money to go that year, or do you want it to just sit in a bank account doing nothing to help a cause that you firmly believe in? Well, that's the question we're looking into today. Now, the YouTuber that we're actually discussing is known as the Completionist. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, you might be wondering, who is the Completionist? The Completionist is one of the more popular gaming channels. He's been around for a long time, and he makes some pretty awesome gaming content. What the Completionist also does beyond make interesting gaming content is run something known as Indieland, an actual yearly event where industry veterans, independent gaming companies, big brands like Corsair and G Fuel, and some of the best influencers in the game all converge together to help raise money for charity. Indieland is there to fight against dementia. Now, if you go to the big donate page over here, you'll find out that they work with the Open Hand Foundation. And this foundation was founded to honor the memory of Karen Khalil, the completionist mother who ended up losing her life in a fight against frontotemporal dementia. And of course, all the condolences for sure. But when we looked into this charity, one of the biggest red flags showed up, and that was the Open Hand Foundation. Now, while it is a 501c3 charitable organization, tax-free, all designed for public charity, we wanted to look into this organization with a much more in-depth look, because we found something a little unsavory. And by we, I mean Carl Jobst and me. We were working on the story together, and the actual results are very damning. So ladies and gentlemen, when we looked at the Open Hand Foundation, they said, together, let's make a difference. And of course, the philosophy is, the more you receive, the more you give. The more you give, the more you receive. Life gives and life takes. And of course, if you look at their donation, they say that your gift will contribute to vital research for a cure for this devastating disease. Now, of course, they list benefactors like the University of California, San Francisco. I assume it's San Francisco. Typos usually aren't a good sign when it comes to situations like this. But on their events page, they appear to have two events that help raise money for this charity, which is the Convenience Cup Challenge and, of course, Indieland. Which, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to look even further into where this money that was raised by Indieland was going. See, in the news, you would just read that Indieland, for instance, in 2021, raised more than $100,000 for dementia research, which is crazy awesome. Over the weekend, annual live streaming event raised more than $100 grand for charity, organized by YouTube star Gerard Khalil, aka The Completionist. And of course, it's the same story that you'll find on other websites like Dual Shockers, which again says in 2022 they raised $80K for dementia research. And of course, these are massive news articles to see. It's feel-good stuff. But this is where I feel like these news sites should have dug a little bit deeper, because what me and Carl found was very questionable. All right, so how do you vet a charity yourself, ladies and gentlemen? To vet a charity, you go to any of their websites, and usually at the very bottom, you'll find something like a tax ID, an EIN number. For the Open Hand Foundation, it's 300827510. You copy that, and you can basically go to the IRS charity lookup right here. So again, it's as very simple as going to Google, typing in IRS lookup, and here you can see tax-exempt organization search. You click on that, and you put in the EIN number in this field and hit the search button. And that takes you to the Open Hand Foundation. You open that one up right here, and you can see a lot of their letters too. For instance, this determination letter that shows that they've been active since 2014. And again, this is their this is basically them showing when they were active from, okay? So they've got their tax forms, their 990 PFs, which basically shows the money going in and hopefully the money going out. So these are all public records, and you can look them up for yourself right now. And we went to ProPublica, and they have tax filings all the way from 2014 up to 2021. So at this moment in time, me and Carl decided to look down the actual filings year by year, and we found a pretty massive discrepancy that, to everyone we showed, has raised every red flag imaginable. So back in 2014, this open to public inspection note, you can see that the Open Hand Foundation raised in revenue $33,000 in contributions. If you look at their operating and administrative expenses, they had nothing to spend. So that also includes contributions, gifts, and grants paid, line 25, which would mean money going to other charitable organizations or grants that you're providing for, Alzheimer's research, for these charitable causes. And of course, if you look at their balance sheets, at the end of 2014, they had $33,756 sitting in cash in their accounts. So then we go to the year 2015, and we looked that they made $60,000 in contribution revenue. They spent $27,686 this year. But that puts them from having $33,756 in their account at the beginning of the year to having $66,000. Remember, it's the amount of contributions they make minus their operating expenses. What's interesting is line 25. They paid nothing in contributions, gifts, or grants at all. They did, however, spend $28,000 in administrative expenses. Then we decided to go all the way to the year 2016, and the pattern became even more interesting. $40,000 they raised in that year. Then they went down and apparently spent $11,599 in administrative expenses. How much did they spend in contributions paid? $0. And of course, you can see that at the beginning of the year, they had $66,000 that they started off with, and $94,000 in the bank. So then we went to the year 2017. And if you can imagine the pattern, they made $31,000, they spent $11,000, still paid $0 in contributions or grants to these charities, and started with $94,000 and ended with $115,000. Then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, 2018 rolls. They make $113,000 in contributions, in revenue. They spend $14,144 in operating expenses. Then, of course, they still pay out $0 in contributions, starting the year with $115 in the bank, ending it with $215,028 in the bank. 2019 rolls around. They make $123,000. They spend $12,394 in operating expenses. Actually, $13,029. Point is, they still spent $0 in contributions paid. That started them off with $215 that year, ended them with $325,815. The year 2020 rolls up, turn of the decade. $122,000 that they've earned in contributions. Again, still contributing $0 to these charitable organizations, but spending $6,140 in operating money. That started them with $325, ended them with $442. 2021 rolls by. They make $136,000 in contributions and donations. Donate $0 this entire year too. Spend almost $30,000 in administrative expenses. This starts them with $442,000, ends them with $549,000. And if you think I'm getting too long-winded, don't get me wrong. We're at the last year, 2022 of their filings. They make $117,000. Then they somehow spend $11,000, but still contribute $0 at all. So again, this starts them with $549 and ends them with a whopping $655,000 in the bank. That seems about right. Indieland is raising $600,000. Obviously, there's a bit more money that they've earned from various other events and more contributions. But the point is, this is still money that's sitting in their account. Now, me and Carl actually started a conversation with Gerard to get his side of the story, and he confirms that the money is still sitting in the account.
To answer your question, Carl, I don't have an answer. I think that's my fuck up. I have personally donated to AFTD and Alzheimer's Association over the years, and that's where, again, I assumed the money was going there to support them as we were talking negotiations about working with them. I don't really have a true answer for that, and that's on me completely, and I will own up to that. But, again, it doesn't fucking matter. You guys are going to say what you're going to say, and I can't stop it, but the important thing is that all the money is still in the account. None of it's spent erroneously. It's all above board. Like it's not hiding in a Cayman account or anything like that.
Yeah,
And that's the thing about 501(c)s is that like if I did any of that, the minute I did any malpractice of that nature, literally the government would be like, hey, we're coming after you. And that's
Right.
you know, at least legally speaking, everything's above board. And I understand that the question isn't so much legality and so much more about morality in, you know, me advertising this event and showing people sponsors and all that stuff.
Now, I think it's quite interesting to almost make it sound like this is about to be some crazy drama story, when in reality, this isn't some tabloid journalism we go for. I kind of find a weird insinuation of that a little bit insulting for me and my colleagues like Carl, people like CoffeeZilla, people like Barely Sociable, who do deep dives and investigative pieces on situations like this.
I guess what I'm asking you guys is, what do you want me to do as soon as possible? If it's like, hey, Gerard, we want you to shut up and take the L so we can make content, that's fine. If that's what you guys think is the way to go, to call it a scam, sure. But I'm not trying to scam anyone. I would never try and scam in honor of my mom. Like, this is, I would not be outward facing knowing that I can get right through the coals for this.
This isn't drama. This is erroring at best at severe negligence, or it could go into actual charitable fraud. Now, this definition came from legalmatch.com, which actually said charity fraud is when someone takes advantage of a charitable or nonprofit organization for their own personal gain. Fraud is defined as intentional deception or misrepresentation made for personal gain. Defrauding a charity can be anything from falsely claiming to be a victim of the disaster in order to get money from a charity, to stealing donations from a collection tin, to setting up a fake charity and pocketing the donations. However, fraudulent activity can also occur when people make dishonest or inflated claims about how much money they have raised or how much it has helped the cause. And again, the dishonest claims are ones that we're going to be looking into now. So again, even with the legal match definition, one of the most common ways to commit charity fraud include pretending to be a charity or falsely claiming to be affiliated with a legitimate charity in order to solicit donations. So at this moment in time, this is where me and Carl decided to look deeper into the Indieland streams, just to see if they were being very up and honest about the definitions of this charity, and if the money was actually supposed to be earmarked and kept, or it was going to some legitimate organizations. Let's listen closely.
Guys, welcome to Indieland. For those of you who don't know what we're doing, we're raising money for dementia research and prevention, helping victims who not only have dementia, but the families of those around them. It's obviously a very important cause. I could talk today, near and dear to my heart. I was 10 years old when my mom got dementia, and it's been a journey for me and my family. And so this cause is obviously very personal, and that's why we're here today. Bits, donations, subs, buy the shirt, buy the coin, buy indie games, all that stuff. All of it is going to the benefit of helping others for this charity event.
So again, if that is a true statement, then the actual filings would reflect that. Again, we looked through every single aspect of their public filings and found that they didn't contribute anything. In fact, me and Carl even went down and actually got a comment from their organization, and it reads like this in one actual message that we received. Dear Carl, thank you for your inquiry regarding the financial activities of the Open Hand Foundation. We recognize your concerns and are glad to offer clarity in our operations and missions. So again, they actually said, since our official registration, and that was back in 2014, we have been evaluating potential beneficiaries who align with our visions, entities that could use our funds efficiently and effectively without a significant portion being diverted to administrative expenses. We asked Gerard about this, and it pretty much seems like what they have said to us in writing matches what he told us in an interview.
Whether it's UCSF or a partner that's also on our website, because we don't have any other benefactors currently. Like that's why I was like, well, they're taking care of it, but nothing was ever brought to my attention. I just knew that conversations were happening between Alzheimer's Association of America, AFTD Foundation, UCSF started a new organization, I think called like Bluefin or Blue Group, which is like supposed to be their 501c part of their organization. So I know I have a paper trail of us talking to other organizations as early as 2020 and 2021 in an attempt to pay them what they were owed. And most of the conversations we had from some of the bigger orgs like Alzheimer's, they were like, look, if you're not going to pay more than 6 figures or 6+ figures of what they asked for, then you're just going to waste it. So the goal on the back end for my family that I've been told is like, we're just going to raise a bunch of money and then give it to one org and like make a bigger impact rather than just giving smaller donations that don't move the needle.
Now, I think this is a very, very dumb point in the sense that, again, bear with me. If I go to an actual charity right now, for instance, the Alzheimer's Association, one thing you'll see is they'll ask me to gift an amount that is as low as $35. Now, again, if the idea was that a small donation was somehow going to be more geared towards financing this organization's administrative costs versus actually helping Alzheimer's and contributing to the cure, then they should just tell you, why the fuck would you donate $35? Donate $35,000 instead. That's going to matter more. See, the idea of this money going to a doctor's salary is, again, like, who do you think is going to do the research on this anyways? Of course it's going to go to salary for researchers, doctors.
I literally am about to like donate all this money today. And prior to that, earlier this week and the week before, and I've just been sitting here crippled trying to figure out the best way to handle this, because I felt like if I donated the money the minute you guys emailed me, it'd be a situation of, well, he's trying to hide it and he's admitting guilt by doing that. And I never felt that way, but I understand completely that you guys could easily argue that, and it would just make me look more like a scumbag. And, I just wanted, I want to do right by you guys and what you think. When you guys got the email and I said, please tell us about benefactors, that was genuine, because I haven't found a benefactor that I'm completely happy with. And I want to make sure that this money goes to a good cause in honor of my mom. And I'm upset that the conversations I've had haven't gone the way that I wanted. And I'm willing at this point to just donate the money to whoever. I want it to go in the right spot. I don't want it to go to some doctor's salary or some expense bill for a massive organization that it's not going to do anything for.
There's probably going to be administrative costs, but it doesn't mean that charities only function when you give them a lot of money. In fact, a lot of charitable donations are just drips and drabs that add up to serious amounts. And based on the filings, with over $600,000 sitting in an account, that's going to do an actual difference in the world. At least more difference than just sitting in a bank account anyways. Now again, Gerard will tell us, how do you make this right? And again, instead of worrying about how the internet perceives you after watching this video or this news story, you should just donate the money to the charities that you've said. Going back to their comment, they wanted to address the regulatory frameworks with which 501c3 organizations like ours operates. We are subject to stringent regulations and are required to maintain compliance with federal laws. Our operations are transparent to regulatory bodies, including the IRS, and are subject to review to ensure adherence to these laws. Should there be any irregularities or misuse of funds, agencies such as the DOJ would intervene. Dude, the US government is not God, okay? Just because there's probably a lot of bad things going on transparently to the world. Remember, the IRS and the DOJ are human organizations. This probably isn't even enough money to show up on their radars. It'll show up on their radars now that people are reporting about this, but in general, just because you are a 501c3 organization doesn't mean that you are immediately in the clear. Obviously, the IRS should audit this after we've come to this. Any accountant that I've shown this to has brought up red flags after red flags. Even in the year of 2015, to show you their other expenses schedule, what's insane is when it comes to expenses, they've literally put expenses in just a general bucket called expenses, $27,000 that they spent. Again, not really even breaking this down. You got your business registration fees for $50, your taxes for $425, but any accountant will tell you this is just an audit waiting to happen. If the IRS sits down and audits you, they're going to make you break down exactly what $27,000 in expenses are, especially when I looked up the expenses year after year after year. 2015, they spent 28 grand. 2016, they spent 11 grand. With such variations, the IRS should ask you why you spent $125,000 and exactly how. Again, you should just be forthcoming and transparent. And I have no doubt that the federal government will probably want to look into this. And they should. And one of the things is, this is the To compare it to another organization, this is the 990 filings of the Alzheimer's Association, and you can see instead of just writing expenses, they actually detail exactly where and how they're spending the money. This is the kind of accounting you want to see, not just throwing it into one bucket and calling it a day. So then they ask me and Carl a really wild question, okay? As we actively search for a partnership that meets our high standards, we welcome any recommendations you may have for our potential benefactors. If you are aware of any organizations or research entities that might share our dedication that could benefit from our support, we are more than willing to consider them in good faith. Dog, why should we, the journalists, do your job for you? You're the charitable organization. You've just been holding on to money when your only job was to find who you should donate to. It is actually wild that people are donating to this foundation and not knowing that their money was just sitting there the entire time. That's the real deceptive part of this. The entire time we were sitting here wondering, yes, our money is going to dementia research, when in reality, nothing was given, it seems, according to these filings. And that money might as well have not existed, and the fight against dementia is not being assisted at all with your money if you were giving it in this fashion. And while again, we talked with Gerard. He says, how can you make this right? It's donate the money to the charities that you said. That'll make a difference. If the money is there, which you said it is, and according to these filings, there are, just donate the money. So Carl responded with, hi, Jack. Thank you for your detailed response. I would greatly appreciate if you could clarify. Why do you have the UCSF listed as a benefactor on your website if Open Hand does not even contribute to them? Is UCSF the institution you referenced that you made contributions to before the official registration that you believe made insufficient progress? Good point to make. If so, why do you believe they made insufficient progress? Would you also mind clarifying what you mean when you say you donated body parts? Lastly, do you believe that donors have a right to know that their donations have not gone towards dementia research, as they were led to believe? Indieland has been running since 2018. Do you think it's appropriate that it continues to ask for money when it hasn't contributed any of it or even knows where the money will go? And this is the most baffling response from this organization. Carl, UCSF is acknowledged on our website as part of our historical contributions. As the foundation strategy has evolved, so is our selection of research partners, always with an eye towards more effectively advancing our mission. Now, again, looking into their filings, throughout the years, one thing is apparent. Everyone in this organization, if you look at the breakdown of their employees, it all just appears to be family members listed as presidents, directors, VPs, and secretaries. And they've worked 0 hours, meaning they haven't been compensated, but they also haven't done shit, apparently, according to the filings. So then they say the specifics of biological donations are secret, obviously. The Open Hand Foundation ensures all donors that funds are conserved with diligence and foresight earmarked for research endeavors that align with our stringent criteria for impactful use. The Indieland event embodies our mission to raise both awareness and funds diligently and responsibly. Nowhere on their own website or Indieland's website have they written somewhere where they said, hey, listen, you can contribute to this incredible cause. Your proceeds go to charity. If you told me instead of going directly to the charity that it was going to your own bank account, sitting there collecting dust for years, then people probably wouldn't donate, okay? This is absolutely deceptive. Like, the Open Hand Foundation apparently says that it ensures the donors that it's going to be earmarked when they just say your gift will contribute to vital research for a cure for this devastating disease. If I gave you money, according to your filings, it doesn't actually go to the research. It's just sitting in your own accounts. That's what's fucked up. So while we understand the necessity of due diligence and charitable engagements, yes, that is the whole point of a public charity. The insinuation of wrongdoing on the part of Open Hand Foundation is both unwarranted and unfounded. Again, I wouldn't say that it's unwarranted and unfounded. Nearly every accountant that I've shown this to has seen the red flags. We conduct our operation within a bound of legal and ethical standards. Again, according to your filings, the money is there. All you gotta do is donate it to the people that you claim to be donating to. Now here's another glaring problem. If you go back to any of their filings, for instance, this is from 2016, you can see that when they check their organizations, they called themselves a Section 501c3 exempt private foundation. The problem with this is, according to the IRS, they actually have two designations: private foundations and public charities. Generally, organizations that are classified as public charities have an active program of fundraising and receive contributions from many sources, including the general public. Again, that would be getting donations through Indieland with like publicly viewed live streams from the general public. Again, that is one issue right there. I'm a computer scientist, so I really, really urge anybody that has background in tax accounting for charitable organizations, or hell, if the IRS is watching this, one of the things that Carl brought up to me very recently was the 5% rule, which again, this is a very complicated rule, but the idea is the US government expects foundations to use their assets to benefit society, and they enforce it through Section 4942 of the Internal Revenue Code, which requires private foundations to distribute 5% of the market value, the fair market value of their endowment each year for charitable purposes. So again, I want to see how this rule is done, because according to the filings we've seen, they haven't actually given any money. They've spent money in operating expenses, but again, we need to actually see if they're giving their money to a charitable organization. You know, again, I want everyone professional in the industry to look into this, because this is again, when I said that this raises red flags to any CPA or accountant that I've shown, there's a reason for that. And again, before the organization tells us that they're doing the absolute best in responsible stewardship, I want them to explain all of this, because these are just a few discrepancies we found. I could only imagine what a professional auditor will find with this situation. Now, one of the red flags in this was Gerard even told us that he kind of knew about this, a couple months before. Before a while, he used to think that what was going on was money was being donated, until very recently he found out that no, the money was still sitting in the account, and it actually started somewhat of a civil war within this organization as to let's donate this money now, because he's the public-facing figure of this organization. He's going to face a lot of the backlash.
I knew it was sitting there at a certain point, and that's what made me proactively go about it. Like,
do you know when that point was?
I was made aware in 2021 where the money hadn't moved yet. Okay. And that's what made me go, that's not fucking cool. And that's when I got personally involved to move it. And
did anyone...
2021 last year, 2022.
Yeah, did anyone tell you that the money was going somewhere before then? Were you being misled?
No. No one told me anything. I assumed that it was all going to a charity, and I assumed it correctly.
But the reality is, if you even knew that, how could you prepare for Indieland 2023 or anything? This is a glaring issue that you needed to fix a long time ago. Now, from the statements that Gerard made on his streams for Indieland 2020 and various other Indielands, it leads everyone to believe, realistically, that the money is going to some charities. Listen to this really closely.
Brother and I started a foundation called the Open Hand Foundation that raises money for dementia research and treatment for organizations all over the world. We're soon going to be partnering up with the Alzheimer's Association, currently working with the University of San Francisco, and we're kind of one of their main funding support partners going into all of this.
So, working with the University of San Francisco, I thought they were listed in your definition as a historical organization, and you were looking for other people. Again, the claims that are being made are definitely subject to review here. But the most important thing about it is going to be working with the Alzheimer's Association, which is super odd to me, because why do you have to run these long-term partnerships? If you're going to donate to the Alzheimer's Association, you should just be writing a check to them. If you're watching this stream and you hear that, in your head, you're thinking, yes, the money that I'm going to be donating is probably going to go to these established charities anyways. Normally, when YouTubers run charities, they probably just link directly to that charity via a payment processor. But in the case of this, it actually went to that Open Hand Foundation. And the money was just stuck in that account, not being given to some of these organizations.
All bits, all donations, all super chats, all YouTube memberships, basically anything that's tied to donating or subscribing in a financial way to us is going to charity. We're not touching any of it. It's all going for a good cause. We're going to have a great weekend. We have a lot of games.
So when he says he's not touching any of it, when we talked to Gerard, he said that there was a couple of years that Indieland actually dipped into the Open Hand Foundation to cover some expenses. So this is a false statement that's being made.
So Indieland is a separate thing from Open Hand.
Correct.
But
yes.
were you saying that Open Hand was paying expenses for Indieland though?
Only some years and no more than a couple $1,000 depending on the year. If it was too much money just to make it right, because you're not supposed to really do that especially when you have no operating expenses. I'd only reimburse myself and I did it appropriately through the Open Hand when applicable, but not every year and no more than a couple $1,000 maximum.
If you touch any money from charity, even if it's for operating expenses, that's not money that's all going to charity. Not all of it at all. And of course, even when you look at the filings, $0 has been contributed or granted to some of these organizations that they claim to help.
All the money goes to the Open Hand Foundation, an organization that we started in honor of my mom, and all that money goes to dementia research. We don't touch any of it. We just work with the people who do need the money, and we help them do their thing.
So here he claims that he works with the people to help them do their thing. They don't touch any of the money, even though, as far as expenses have gone for operating their organization, it's been up to $125,000, rivaling a net contribution of $0 throughout their existence to these actual people that they claim to be helping, which again is just fucked up.
We are raising money for dementia research in honor of my late mom, trying to help folks who've been impacted by dementia, working with organizations like USF, FTD Association of America, Alzheimer's Association of America, and so many more.
And there he lists who he's working with, which again contrasts with their actual statement they gave to me and Carl, where they were just evaluating potential beneficiaries. Again, if you could name these people, why couldn't you write a check to them? $650,000 is a very, very, very good amount to start actually making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. And even if you didn't have that amount, even if it was like $60 that you raised, because you raised it in charitable funds, you told the audience who you were raising it for, who you were working with, you have an obligation, a legal obligation to donate to those exact organizations. And again, to also respond to Gerard when we were talking, it's not about writing a check to any organization. It's about writing the amounts for those exact organizations that you've been listing throughout the years. Because for anybody watching, for anybody looking at this who's ever donated to Indieland, you want your money to go to the places that you were told.
For me personally, this was a really important project for FlyQuest to sponsor. I've had people in my immediate family that have suffered from dementia, people really close to me, so I've personally experienced it. And so when this initiative kind of came across my desk, it was easy to approve. Also, just for context, I'm Brian Anderson. I'm the CEO of FlyQuest. I'm not sure I actually introduced myself here at the beginning. Great to meet everyone on the stream. Thank you so much for watching. Just really, really excited to help you guys out, participate. Thank you so much for using the space. And also wanted to do a quick announcement as well.
Sure.
FlyQuest is going to be supporting this initiative, not just for the space, but we're also going to be contributing $15,000
Holy
to
shit.
the donations.
Wow.
Let's fire it off.
Wow.
Do you think he knew that the money that he gave from his organization just sat in an account when he popped the confetti? That's a question I want to see. What do you think the CEO of FlyQuest is going to think when he sees this whole situation unfold before his eyes? That's the most messed up thing in this entire situation, too. But ignore the fact that this is a CEO donating a lot of money to. Even average individuals who are giving money away in the chase of $2,000, right? From one user who said, Gerard, it was a pleasure meeting you in Frasier with my buddy Airdorf a few months back. Big fan, thanks for supporting game devs like us. Dementia runs in my family as well, so Indieland always holds a special place in my heart. Distribute all the hot sauce y'all can handle, protect Watts. Again, do you think this guy knew that his $2,000 was just sitting in an account instead of going to these charitable organizations? That's the real, again, I can't stress it enough, that's the part that hurts to see the most. But again, like I said at the beginning, it really feels like this is negligence at best, but again, it really takes the IRS to investigate this and see what these expenses and what this organization was doing. Because from the outside looking in, it's incredibly weird to see money being raised, but not distributed as it should be. It is a wild situation. But again, the real damning part about this is not the fact that this is the completionist. This is somebody that, I do respect. I had respect for. This is a situation where it makes me question every charity, right? Because again, I would never look into this because it's run on the foundation of his late mother, and especially covering an illness that I think a lot of people, especially people watching this video, know all too well. If you got elderly family in your life, I pray every day that I never have to see my mom and dad or uncles and aunts go through dementia. I pray every day because it's a really scary situation to be in. And that's why, like, when I hear charity money hasn't been appropriated when it should be for stuff like this, it burns me on the inside. This isn't like childhood tabloid gossip stuff. This is serious, serious situations that need to have federal agencies looking into. That's all I'm going to put into it. And again, Gerard, instead of thinking about the perception the public will have over this video or this news story that me and Carl are covering, you need to think about the fact that the money is there. It shouldn't have mattered if me and Carl sent a message to your organization and you were thinking, should I donate the money now? Is it going to make me look guilty or not? Look, at the end of the day, you messed up. But if the money is there, it's still not too late. It's never too late to donate to the charities you've listed, because that's the whole point of this. The whole point is, like the foundation says, to make a fucking difference. And making a difference starts with appropriating this money to the right people to make sure the fight against dementia is alive and well. Money doesn't do anything if it's sitting in an account just operating payroll expenses or operating expenses for a charity that should be a foundation that should be donating. If we hadn't covered this, would the Open Hand Foundation have donated in the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? It's a question I'll ask forever till the end of time. Now, I don't want anybody to walk into this and think charities are automatically bad. Not all charities are bad. This is an incredibly wild case of severe mismanagement of money that should never have happened. When you start seeing when you see this situation, it makes you question every charity. I'm questioning every charity, especially YouTuber-run things nowadays. And what hurts the most about the story is the fact that the actual subject matter, the charity, the topic of it is so sensitive. I respected this YouTuber immensely who I covered. This wasn't a situation of me covering, somebody that was automatically on my shit list anyway, somebody that I didn't like to begin with, somebody that automatically gave me bad vibes. This is a YouTuber I respected. And I will tell you right now, before I looked into the story with Carl, I wanted to believe this was some bad dream and we came across some wild discrepancy. But everyone that I've talked to, Gerard included, knows that this is a bad thing, knows that this shouldn't have happened. And the only way to make it right is to fucking donate this money. That said, though, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.